Hello everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today, we are re-stepping back in time to a case that has puzzled investigators and haunted a small community for decades. We're going to Plumas County, California, to the resort town of Keddie, to explore the tragic and unresolved mystery of the Keddie cabin murders. So, grab a seat and let's respectfully delve into the events that unfolded in Cabin 28. Our story begins on the morning of April 12th, 1981. Sheila Sharp was returning to her family's rental, Cabin 28, after a sleepover at a neighbor's house. The moment she opened the door, she was met with a scene of unimaginable horror. Inside, she discovered the bodies of her mother, 36-year-old Glenna Sue Sharp, her 15-year-old brother, John, and John's 17-year-old friend, Dana Wingate. The victims had been bound with electrical wire and medical tape, and the scene was incredibly violent. The brutality of the crime sent shockwaves through the quiet mountain town, a place where people rarely even locked their doors. The initial investigation was immediately complicated. At the scene were Sheila's two younger brothers, Rick and Greg, and their friend, Justin Smart, who were found unharmed in an adjacent bedroom. They had somehow slept through the entire ordeal. Perhaps most baffling was the disappearance of Sheila's 12-year-old sister, Tina Sharp. She was nowhere to be found. An intense search for Tina began, but there were no immediate leads. Where could she have gone? And why were the younger boys left untouched? The crime scene itself presented a whirlwind of confusing evidence. The sheer violence suggested a crime of passion, possibly involving multiple assailants. Investigators found several potential weapons, including a table knife and a butcher knife, both bent from the force of the attack, as well as a Daisy power line, 880 pellet gun, and a hammer. Adding to the confusion, one of the knives was not from the Sharp's cabin and was later identified as having come from the home of a neighbor, Martin Smart. Martin Smart and his friend, John B.O. Bubid, quickly became persons of interest. Martin lived in the neighboring cabin, and his wife, Marilyn, reported to investigators that Marty had confessed to being involved. She claimed he said something along the lines of, "I've killed the old lady, and I've killed her daughter, but I didn't have anything to do with the boys." Bubid, who was staying with the Smarts, had a criminal history and was reportedly a volatile individual. According to Marilyn, Martin hated Sue Sharp and blamed her for interfering in his marriage. On the night of the murders, Sue had reportedly been trying to comfort Marilyn, who was upset with Martin. Did this confrontation escalate into a night of unimaginable violence? It seemed like a strong possibility. In a later polygraph test, Martin was found to be deceptive when questioned about the murders, yet he was never charged. Investigators at the time seemed to dismiss his wife's statements, and both Smart and Bubid were able to leave the area shortly after the initial investigation. For 3 long years, the community held on to a sliver of hope for Tina Sharp's safe return. But that hope was tragically extinguished in 1984. A bottle collector, hiking in a remote wooded area near Feather Falls, about 30 miles from Keddie, stumbled upon a human skull and part of a jawbone. Dental records confirmed the remains belonged to 12-year-old Tina. Near her remains, a child's blanket, a blue nylon jacket, a roll of tape, and an empty dispenser were also found. This discovery confirmed Tina was the 4th victim, but it provided few answers about who was responsible or why she was taken from the cabin. Years turned into decades, and the case grew colder. The original investigators were criticized for their handling of the crime scene and their failure to pursue promising leads, like the one involving Martin Smart and B.O. Bubid. Key evidence was reportedly mishandled or even lost. For the surviving members of the Sharp family and the community, it felt like justice would never be served. Martin Smart passed away in 2000 and B.O. Bubid in 1988, taking any secrets they might have had to their graves. However, the story doesn't end there. In 2013, a new sheriff, Greg Hagwood, took office in Plumas County and made a promise to re-examine the Keddie case. He brought in modern forensic techniques and a fresh set of eyes. New evidence was uncovered, including a hammer found in a local pond that was believed to be one of the murder weapons. This hammer perfectly matched a description given by Martin Smart's therapist, whom Martin had allegedly confessed to. The therapist had told police years earlier that Martin admitted to killing Sue with a hammer after she discovered him and Bubid with Tina. Furthermore, investigators re-examined a recorded phone call made to the Plumas County Sheriff's office shortly after Tina S. remains were found. The anonymous caller claimed the skull was his, a strange and unsettling statement. The voice on that call was later identified as that of a man who was friends with Martin Smart's inner circle. Another crucial piece of information resurfaced: a letter Martin Smart supposedly wrote to his wife after the murders. In it, he reportedly wrote, "I've paid the price for your love," before detailing his struggles, though it never contained an outright confession. Despite these renewed efforts and tantalizing clues, the case officially remains unsolved. The statute of limitations has long since passed, meaning even if a suspect were definitively identified today, they likely couldn't be prosecuted for the murders. What we're left with is a tragic puzzle with many missing pieces. We have compelling theories and strong persons of interest, but no definitive, court-proven answers. We have a story of a family destroyed, a community forever changed, and a lingering sense of injustice. The Keddie cabin murders serve as a chilling reminder that sometimes the most haunting questions are the ones that are never answered. Thank you for joining me today as we looked into this deeply unsettling case. It's important that we remember the victims: Sue, John, Dana, and Tina. Their story deserves to be told. If you found this video informative, please consider liking it and subscribing to the channel for more content like this. Stay safe, and I'll see you in the next one.